Welcome, welcome. It's another Monday. It is December 11th, 2023, and time for the Classic Guitar Rock Daily Update. An official welcome to those of you who are joining from the Well Classic Rock, one of the great internet radio stations. Thank you for joining us, and you can hear us each and every day right here on the Well Classic Rock. If you don't listen to The Well, by the way, check it out, thewellclassicrock.com. Awesome station. You can listen to it while you're working. And we're super excited to have the CGR update airing on The Well. So thank you very much. Big news. A lot of things to get into today. Pete Townshend has admitted he doesn't know what's next for his legendary band, The Who. The Who basically now is Pete and Roger. And they, in fact, did a short tour in the summer, mostly UK dates. But back in 2022, they played some dates in the US. And Pete, famously not a fan of touring, not a big fan of touring. But and he's been one of these vocal folks talking out about the way the music industry has changed. It doesn't make sense to make new records, he has said several times, that the cost associated with making an album and then the way albums are distributed, whether it's streaming or whatever, it just doesn't make sense. So playing live is one of the ways left that bands can make money, but even there, they make most of their money selling t-shirts. What's a guy to do? So Pete is frustrated, but he also is an artiste. He's a creative dude. And you know, those creative types, they got to create. And so he says, quote, "I think it's time for Roger and I to go to lunch and have a chat about what happens next, because the final show shouldn't feel like the end of anything, but it feels like the end of an era. It's a question of really what is feasible, what would be lucrative, what would be fun." So I wrote to Roger and said, "Come on, let's have a chat and see what's there." So whatever the future brings for Pete, hopefully it doesn't involve doing more research on kiddie porn. Let me just throw that out there. Wolfgang Van Halen and Michael Anthony met in person for, I didn't realize it had been this long, 20 years. They had not seen each other in 20 years. Well, they met up in Las Vegas at Wolfgang's band. He has a band, Mammoth. He met at that show. They got together backstage, and there's a picture. You don't realize either how small Mikey is or how big Wolfgang is. But man, quite the juxtaposition between the two. But they're all smiles, and they both were super excited to see each other. This is from Ultimate Classic Rock. The pair proved there was no hard feelings when they posed for a picture together, with Van Halen reporting on social media, "Ran into an old friend at the Mammoth WVH show in Vegas tonight. Love you, Mikey." So that's great. It's cool to see them together. Now, remember, Wolfie replaced Mikey and Van Halen when they got together with Roth and did that tour back in, like, when was it? 2010 or 11 or whenever that was. Ed wanted his son to tour with him, right? And there's a lot of, it's complicated, right? Mikey was basically fired, and they brought Wolfie in. It wasn't Wolfie's fault, right? But Mikey and Wolfie looks good. Looks like they're having a good time, and glad that they were able to get together. Michael says, quote, "Went to see Mammoth last night here in Vegas, and they threw it down. Love you, Wolf. So great to see you. Proud of you, brother." First time in 20 years that they'd been together. Speaking of Van Halen, we've mentioned this Sammy Hagar tour that's coming up. Sammy Hagar is doing what he's calling the Best of All Worlds tour. Now, again, it's been over 3 years since Eddie died. There's been no progress made on any type of tribute show to Eddie, which everyone wants it. I've said a million times, Alex Van Halen is the reason nothing has happened, right? He's just kind of dragging his feet, or he's just not even in his radar. I mean, until Alex wants to do something, nothing will happen official. But Sammy has said, hey, I'm going to go out and do my own tribute to Ed. So they're doing a set that is majority Van Halen. They'll do some Sammy stuff too, but it's mostly going to be Van Halen catalog. And he's enlisted Joe Satriani to come in and play this part. Now, Vic Johnson, who's in Sammy's normal band, is a great guitar player, and they do a few Van Halen tunes. But I think for something this Van Halen heavy, Sammy probably thought, and to be honest, Vic probably thought, Joe's probably the guy to do it. So Joe's going on the tour. He's going to be doing all this Van Halen stuff. But here's where it's interesting. Joe has kind of been inspired, encouraged, reminded of the way to approach this gig by none other than Mick Jagger. Now, if you remember back in 1988, maybe you don't remember, this was when Joe Satriani was just, his Not of This Earth album had come out. Not super mainstream. It wasn't until Surfing with the Alien came out. And did that come out in 87? I think it came out in 87, 88. So this was around the time that Joe's solo career, instrumental, is really taking off. But he got an offer from Mick Jagger to come tour with Jagger. So who's not going to take that offer, right? So Satriani agrees to perform with Jagger. And of course, you're going to see Mick Jagger on a solo tour. He's going to be doing lots of Rolling Stones stuff. And Joe's like, well, I'm a completely different player than Keith Richards. That's a complete different style for me. And so he's kind of stressed about this. And he talks to Mick. He says, Mick, I mean, I play a lot different than these guys. I'm going to have to learn all these songs. How close do I need to get? I mean, my tone is different. And Mick said, dude, I'm paraphrasing. He said, dude, don't even worry about it. You make them your own. Okay. You do whatever works for you. I mean, obviously it's got to be close enough that you got to play the same chords, right? You got to play the same song, but don't stress about being perfect, sounding exactly like Keith Richards. And, let me read this here. Quote, I just went to Mick one day in rehearsal. I don't play like any of these guys. What do you want me to do? How close do you want me to get? End quote. And Mick says, oh, just forget about that. Just get into the song and do your thing. That's all you got to do. And he was not looking for me to replace anything unless he thought I was really feeling it. Okay, so Mick gave him the leeway. He said, you do what you need to do. And guys, this is guitaritis, by the way. Guitar players get this all the time. And I mean, Satriani's the type of guy, he'll play a song and he would probably be the only one that notices if he didn't play something exactly right, right? That's guitaritis. When the guitar players are so fixated and concerned about what they're playing, that, oh, someone's going to catch me making a mistake, where 99.9% of the crowd wouldn't notice and B, wouldn't care. I digress. But this kind of inspired Joe. This is Joe again. When you play Sympathy for the Devil, before I read this, he said it's all about balance, right? It's a balance. You got to play the song close enough that people recognize the song, but you don't have to sweat playing it note for note perfect, exactly like they would play it. Quote, when you play Sympathy for the Devil, I can't get that great Keith Richards solo out of my head, but you play around it. I think what I found way back in 88 was that if you quote the most important moments of the song, then you trigger something in the audience and they become very receptive to your approach to playing it, right? Some songs have signature licks and riffs. You got to play those, but you don't have to feel like you're chained to the original version of that song. And what is ironic, sorry, I'm going to nerd out here, but what is ironic is here is Satriani, who is very much a technical perfectionist. And he's brilliant. I love Satriani. I don't mean this as a criticism. This is just his personality. He's very technical. He's a perfectionist. And here he's going on a tour playing music by Eddie Van Halen, who was the exact opposite. In fact, if you were to go see Eddie Van Halen, he doesn't play the same thing twice. His solos that you hear on the records, he doesn't play them the same. Every time he does his guitar solo spot, and people always call it, yeah, he got up and played Eruption. Well, no, that's not Eruption. He played part of it that was kind of like Eruption on the record, but the rest of it was completely different, right? Eddie was very much about spontaneity, very much about doing things on the fly, changing things up. And I think my personal opinion is it would be truer to Eddie Van Halen if Joe were to go a little off script more than trying to nail Eddie's parts perfectly. So it is a balance. He'll have to do both because the Van Halen fans are expecting to hear, hey, the solo in You Really Got Me should sound just like this or whatever. So it's interesting. Joe's going to do an excellent job. It'll be a great tour. If you have a chance to check out that Best of All Worlds tour, you absolutely want to do it. One final quote. If you're lucky enough to play music that has really had a big impact on society around the world, that really had a dent in culture, it's an extra experience. I learned that when I went out with Jagger and you play a Rolling Stones song that everyone knows. A couple of generations of people know the song, and the catalog under Sammy Hagar, which includes Van Halen and Sammy stuff and Chickenfoot and Montrose, it's really huge. And a lot of the hits have that quality. It has been the soundtrack of people's lives. He's exactly right. To his point, that's where that balance is so important, right? You got to honor the song enough, but you don't want to feel chained to the song, right? You need to explore the space, right? Awesome. Veteran rockers Tesla will return to the House of Blues inside Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino in Las Vegas, 2024 with their Tesla, the Las Vegas Takeover. That will be April 5th, 6th, 10th, 12th, 13th. So if you're a Tesla fan, Tesla's a great band. They got some great albums. I've never seen them live. I'd like to see them live, but you'll be able to check them out in Las Vegas. Okay. My album recommendation for the day is a neat little, what do you call this? It's like not a full-sized LP. It's 33 and a third RPMs like an LP, but it's a little smaller sized. This is a little EP released by Cheap Trick. And it's got 4 songs. It's got a song from 76, 77, 78, 79. So 4 songs total. Day Tripper. If you've never heard the Cheap Trick version of Day Tripper, you got to hear it. It's got Day Tripper, Can't Hold On, Such a Good Girl, Take Me, I'm Yours. Just a great piece of memorabilia. I'm a big Cheap Trick fan. By the way, our latest episode on the podcast is about Cheap Trick. So if you haven't checked that out, please do so. But this Found All the Parts mini EP is a great record. If you can find it, you should have it. Hey, thank you so much for joining us for the Classic Guitar Rock Daily Update. Again, welcome to the folks tuning in via thewellclassicrock.com. Thank you so much. You can subscribe to us on X. You can check us out on YouTube. We're on Facebook. And of course, you can check out the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks so much. We'll do it all again tomorrow. It's the Classic Guitar Rock Daily Update.